So you just arrived in Guam, and while you're touring the mall strip of Tumon Bay with all the brand names like Michael Kors, Gucci, Prada, and while you stay in the most picturesque hotel you've probably ever been in, looking at the view of the ocean and a beautiful sunset from your hotel balcony, you start to wonder, is there anything else to do in Guam? And for all you wonderers, I say yes. First, I would recommend going to Two Lovers Point. Two Lovers Point is a beautiful, must-see spot that tells the tragic story of, you guessed it, two lovers. The story is essentially Guam's version of Romeo and Juliet, and it tells a tale of a beautiful Chamorro woman who is arranged to marry a Spanish captain, although she's really in love with this local Chamorro man. So they decide to run away, and they get cornered at the edge of the cliff by these Spanish soldiers coming after them. They then tie their hair together and jump off the cliff, deciding that it's better to die in love than to live a life without it in general. It's a pretty romantic spot, and that's why you'll see this wall of lock hearts from past couples that have visited. You can also purchase these locks from the shop there and put a lock with your special person too. You can also go onto the platform that takes you to the edge of the cliff, but keep in mind that it's pretty high. Once you get there, you'll see the coastline of Guam, and it's a beautiful place to take pictures, and it's also shaped like the man from the tale. Let me know if you see it, but if you don't, they also have a guide showing you where his eyes, nose, and his mouth is. They also have the woman from the tale that's on the cliff, but if you can't find her, they have a guide to that as well, so it can kind of help you see her features and everything. Next, get a car and go down south. Here's where you'll find places such as the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Umatic, which gives you a little history, some nice panoramic views of the mountains, and some traces of Spanish influence such as the Spanish-style gate. You can also visit Umatic Bay, where you can walk around, take pictures, and stumble across a Spanish fort that was meant to protect the bay, with some cannons left over from the Spanish occupation of Guam. There's also a little lookout as well, so you can go in and pretend to be a soldier on guard. You'll also stumble across a Santa Maria and Carmelin statue in the village of Mauricio, with a view of Cocos Island in the background. Santa Maria and Carmelin is the patron saint of the Mariana Islands, and one version of her origin states that a fisherman saw a statue of Santa Maria and Carmelin on the backs of two crabs in Mauricio with candles lit between their hands. But he was unable to pick up the wooden and ivory statue until he was finally dressed in his Sunday clothes. This is a picture of the actual statue of Santa Maria and Carmelin, and what's crazy is that this statue has real human hair. Next to the statue is a literal coconut Christmas tree. Why, I don't actually know, but if someone knows, I would be down for an explanation. There's also Bear Rock and Inarajan Pools, but I was unable to go to Inarajan Pools weirdly enough because it was closed. For the adventurous, I would say to take a hike to Tarzan Falls. I would recommend getting a nice pair of hiking shoes for this one, since the path to Tarzan Falls can get kind of muddy. There's also a lot of steep slopes, so you'll be looking like you're running down the hill while trying to maintain your balance. But along the way, you get to stop, take a break, and have a nice view of Guam's jungles and the vast open space of it all. After going down more slopes, trying to figure out the easiest path to get there, trekking on and keeping track of our steps to make sure we won't fall, and sometimes going through the grass that is sort of sharp, we finally got to the top of Tarzan Falls. You'll need to go on the path to the side with a rope attached to get to the bottom to get a view like this, but be careful since you can fall like I did, almost 5 times in a row. But if you prefer to stay on the top, it's super peaceful, and what's cool is you can see the water flow from the top of the waterfall trickle all the way down to the bottom. It is also perfectly safe to go under the waterfall and dip your head in. Quite cold, but safe. The hike back is also kind of tiring, but you'll get to see interesting things like deer tracks, and yes, there are deer in Guam. For my friends who like indoor activities, go to the Guam Museum. There you'll see things like shrimp baskets or sling stones, also called atso tupat, motor and pestles, necklaces that Chamorros used to wear, as well as some hand-woven palm leaf baskets, hats, and fans. You'll also see some drawings from Godot's cave, which are very cool to see, and you can still go visit the cave if you so wish to. For my architecture people, we have some old houses that we used to build for you to look at, as well as their different structures and functionalities that are listed off to the side. You'll also see how we got the name the Island of Thieves, which actually comes from a miscommunication between us and the Spanish when they first arrived on Guam. When the Spanish first came, we gave them some supplies and assumed we could trade our things for their things, you know, because that's what you did back in the day. But the Spanish thought we were stealing from them, which is why they called us thieves, and a huge fight broke out. Eventually, things got a little too crazy and they came to a village on shore and caused a whole lot of mayhem. They set our houses on fire, killed some of our men, took some of our food, and then left. Pretty crazy. They also have a nice replica of a canoe hanging from the ceiling. There's also an explanation about the Tatamona, which are the spirits of the ancient Chamorros, which appear like this figure shown and are still seen by people today. If you want to look into the past, there's a book with some old pictures of life on Guam. Here you'll get to see what the people wore, what their houses looked like, people riding on carabao, and all that crazy Guam jazz that we know and love. Guam was also involved in a lot of international wars, such as the Spanish-American War, where we were then claimed as a U.S. territory. But when World War II hit, the Japanese invaded and took over Guam, forcing children to learn Japanese, forcing all Chamorros to go on long marches to concentration camps such as the infamous Manengan concentration camp, where they planned to kill all the Chamorros with machine guns and commonly beheaded them as well, such as the courageous Father Duenas, who was beheaded for hiding George Tweed, a U.S. Navy man who was on Guam during the Japanese occupation. There's also the video of the actual fight that took place between the Japanese and the Americans when the US fought to get Guam back. It's pretty heartbreaking to see, especially when you see the damage caused by the war and you come across the wall of names of 15,891 Chamorros who were injured, suffered, and even died during the Japanese occupation. But thankfully, the war ended when the US liberated Guam from the Japanese rule, hence why we are still a US territory today and counted in the US Census. Another indoor activity that you can do is go to Underwater World. This is an awesome aquarium where you'll be able to see fish from all sides of you, like this huge gudao or grouper in English. There are also some fish I've never seen before, like this guitar fish. There are leopard sharks, there are stingrays, and there's even a sea turtle that you can watch while he goes and eats seaweed. Then you get to the deep sea fish like this jellyfish. There's also an upside down jellyfish, I never knew that existed. A shrimp, which I hope is saving his friend, I really hope so. This crazy guy, and a moray eel that you can see in Animal Crossing. If you can find a fish anywhere here, excluding the zebra turkey fish, then you have a good eye, because actually there is a fish right over here. I think his name is the stonefish. And if you step on these, you will be injected with poison. There's another stonefish over there. And there's one all the way at the top right there. There's also egg-laying sharks, whatever this thing is, and tiny starfish. They're so cute. Fun fact is that Guam is located in the Marianas Trench, which is the world's deepest trench, and we're close to technically the world's tallest mountain, and no, it's not Mount Everest. So this is how big the Mariana Trench is. If you're a scuba diver, if you have a military submarine, or I think that's Bailey Spear, you can only go this high, or this low. You have a sperm whale, elephant seal, giant squid. You keep going more deeper, there's the Titanic. An octopus can go pretty far, about 5,000 meters underwater. You keep going down, then that's when you have to start to have the bigger, the deeper fish that you see in the bottom. And then you have all the crazy creatures down there. That is how big Mariana Trench is. What's even cool is they have all the mountains. So if you have Mount Fuji, for example, in Japan, is 3,776. Mount Everest is 8,850. It's nowhere as deep as the Marianas Trench. Alrighty, and that's the end of this video. There will be a part 2, so once you're done, please go watch it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.